अस्सलाम वालेकुम नया दिन के व्यूज़ के साथ माइंडसेट एक्सट्रीमली सॉरी सारे व्यूज़ को नॉर्मली हम 6 बजे बिल्कुल आ जाते हैं प्रोग्राम के लिए, लेकिन आज थोड़ा सा डिले हो गया, उसके लिए अपॉलॉजीज़। मैं हमेशा की तरह मोहसन को बीच में लेके आऊँगा कि आज हमारे पास नई गेस्ट हैं। मोहसन पिछले वीक के प्रोग्राम का रीकैप कर ले और हमारी जो गेस्ट हैं उनकी इंट्रोडक्शन करा दें।
Thank you, Faheem. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you again, everyone, for your kind words, your support, all the brilliant feedback. I'll just do a quick recap of the previous week. So we had a guest on from the Netherlands, Turkish Dutch friend of mine, Mr. Murat Yalçin. We wanted to look into racism, discrimination, whether it was affecting ethnic minorities across Europe. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, please do check it out. There was a lot of positives that did come out of it. And that's one of the reasons why we're here to try and find positive solutions. For today, I'm wanting to talk about mental health, but before I go into it, I'd like to introduce our guest, Miss Poonam Zahoor.
Hello, Nayadin TV. I am sure that I'm not a new face on Nayadin TV because I am doing a regular segment on psychoeducation, easy tips, how to improve your mental health and physical health related to that. And with the psychoeducation, being a psychotherapist, I have been working with diversely abled children and their parents. I also work as a mindful and yoga instructor. I also work as a art therapist and process art therapist. So I work with different age group with different genres which could help them express and live a very, very normal life. This has been my job since past 16 years in different part of the countries. So this was my brief introduction, Mohsen. Over to you now.
Brilliant. Yeah, Poonam, as you mentioned, you have had a regular show and program on the Nayadin, and I know it's doing, mashallah, really well, and it's very popular. And again, to our viewers from the Mindset program, if you haven't had a chance, please do go and check it out because there's a lot of benefits in that as well. So one of the reasons, Poonam, when we started the Mindset program was to look into things that people don't speak about very often, especially within our culture and our communities. And I think mental health and even just mental health awareness is one of the things that we don't talk about much. From my understanding, I see an increase in it. I'm also working with young people similar to yourself who have social, emotional, or mental health issues. I'm more aware of it myself. I'm educated more on it myself as well. But my thinking and feeling is generally our Pakistani or British Asian people don't really talk about it much and don't discuss it much. But if in our countries, within the world also, there's increases in suicide, there's increases in people who've got depression, anxiety, various types of stresses. I've actually only come across maybe 2 or 3 people I can think of who have openly says, I actually struggled with something for a short while. And that's one of the things I wanted to start with this program is why do we think that is? And my personal opinion is I think maybe within our cultures, there may be a bit of a stigma. And that stigma being that if someone's going through a struggle or a mental health problem, people are going to look at them as if it's a negative thing, as if they've done something wrong, as if it's something bad, or banda pagalog, yeah. And it's actually working in that environment more. I've realized that these people actually need extra help and support. I know there's always a balance to this argument because I've also come across many people who will maybe cry wolf or they've been through a bit of a struggle and they'll claim to have certain things which they actually don't. I've seen firsthand young people who have gone through very traumatic things at a young age, and they seriously do need the help and support, which is what we try to provide them. So I also want to go into a bit of the balance of, is it actually something you're struggling with, like a depression or anxiety, or is it just a little bit of a phase in your life that you're going through and there may be ways around it? So the first thing I wanted to throw out there was, why do we think within our culture there seems to be this stigma that we don't really talk about it much?
Actually, if I talk about culture, across the world, and I go back centuries and centuries, there was not much difference in the mindset of people. Like if I talk about Indo-Pak or Britain or any other country, even the way we dressed up, even if I talk about the rights of women, at what time they, wanted, they kind of like get permission to vote and all that. If I look at the brief history, we used to think alike, and we used to act alike. Um, my analysis, my research, and my work with the masses, because I work with all kind of classes in Pakistan. Like I work with a worker also, I work with a house help also, I work with the office going person also, students also, old age people, married people, businessmen, elite class. What I gather from their stories, and what I am able to extract, is that in Pakistan and perhaps in Britain, the population which has moved there and now their third or fourth generation is maybe living there, they were kind of conditioned to inflict a lot of shame in a lot of things.
Mm.
If I talk about gender, like for females, for girls, they had to be in a certain way. They need to look in a certain way. They need to wear their scarves. They need to be shy. They need to not to be open. Even in some families, they don't even let them laugh, like with the full mouth open and everything. And if this is still exists in Pakistan, and for boys, like they don't let boys to be vulnerable at all. From a very young age, they say no. If you have a fight, go fight back. If a child is crying that someone has bullied me and said something hurtful, everyone would come and say, no, be a man. Boys don't cry. You can't be like that. Like, they kind of put it in a very negative and shameful way,
Yeah.
that real emotions, which are like very real for a human being, whether they're females, whether they're males, sadness, tears, grief, hurt, they're all similar in all human beings. But gender wise, they're like kind of like people are like conditioned by their elders to repress them in a manner in order to have a persona which kind of matches their family values and which kind of matches the society which we live in. So I feel shaming is the number one cause of all that which you are talking about. And
Yeah.
this is again a shameful thing, that if anyone says that I am having some disturbing thoughts, or maybe I'm having nightmares, or maybe, I have something which I feel other people don't think, because, God has made each and everyone a unique person.
Yeah.
Maybe you have certain abilities I don't have. I have something which you don't have. This is
Yeah.
true for everyone. But that understanding that voice is not being heard, and
Mm.
it has been labeled like, oh, this might be an attention seeking behavior. Oh, this child is maybe he wants or she wants something, that's why they're acting in that manner. Maybe they're threatening us, we are their parents, we have authority, how can we give in to them? So the uh, thought process is like very black and white. They don't
Mm.
understand the world is changing, and a lot of things are gray. And again, I'm repeating that shame is important. It's playing a very, very important part since many centuries on human psyche, human being, human health, mental and physical,
Yeah.
from the society.
I think you make a very good point, and it is a, a problem which seems to still exist. I think even within the British Asian community. I know we are coming along and we are getting better at certain things, but this is exactly why we wanted to make this program and this platform so we can discuss these things. Just before coming on today, I was looking at some programs to do a bit more research and get some actual life stories. And there's one interesting one, just to add to your point, that I come across was it was a young male who became a professional footballer. And at the age of 17, he made his professional debut when he scored his goal. And at that moment in time, he was at the highest stage of his life, very happy, excited, making money, doing what he loves and what his passion was. Unfortunately, this young man ended up getting an injury which stopped his sporting career. And from going from the highest of highs, he went to the lowest of lows. He was in bed for weeks. He was depressed. People who were coming across him were saying similar things like, come on, you need to man up. You're making so much money. What's wrong with you? This, that, and the other. And it seems to be a bit of a common speech that if people aren't around it and they're not familiar with it, or if they haven't been through something similar before, they can't understand it. When it comes to mental health, though, Poonam, you know much more than me, but when it comes to the person's mind, it's always hard to establish because we can't read other people's minds unless they're not going to speak up about it or talk about it. They can't actually get that support. And this is even one of the things that this male said, was that he felt worried, he felt ashamed, he didn't want to come up and speak out because he's meant to be a man, he's a footballer, he's an athlete, he's a professional, and how are people going to think about it? And he actually thought about committing suicide, because in England, in the UK, there's a lot of awareness that's been going around recently about suicide awareness, and it seems to be a lot more common within men than within women. And I'm thinking this stigma from centuries ago, where a man's meant to be a certain way, where the males are struggling and potentially having these thoughts of suicide, is that we're not comfortable speaking about these things, and unfortunately they rather have the thought of taking their own life rather than expressing or maybe showing this weakness, as some people might think of it as. And thank God, though, he didn't end up taking his life. He did find the support, but this has come along, he's 10, 15 years later. So back then, even in England, I don't think there was that much of a support. Now I know myself, there are helplines, there are people you can speak to. But what is it like in Pakistan? Is it a new thing? Is it something that's been going on for a while, as in your field?
If you talk about suicide, the suicide rate in youth has increased in Pakistan since past many years. Even recently, like yesterday, I got a message from my boss that we need to organize a webinar or some kind of a Zoom session for parents, because there were news roaming around that there was a game called PUBG, and young youth children are committing suicide because of that game. The reality and facts are not out yet, but it came as a red flag for, mental health care workers like us, because we talk to children, we deal with them. And in this time of COVID, the screen time is organically increased because they're attending their schools on screens. They have no other place to go to. So like they're like glued to their screens. So yeah, all these things like, mental disturbance, mentally related physical disturbances, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, they are all increasing in Pakistan as well. And the way you have described this player, that he felt ashamed and vulnerable because he was a man, and I feel that since centuries, the parents and the generation condition men, boys, in a manner that they can't be sensitive, they can't be vulnerable, they can't feel shame, they can't have tears, they can't cry. So that machoism, which is like attached to a male, boys, is kind of repressing their emotions, their true emotions, their vulnerability. They know that even if we'll talk, we will be kind of like shut up, or we would be like, boys don't talk like that, mard bano, bahadur bano. All those things are very common. And that repression also can cause a lot of negativity, can take you to a point that your head could work like a pressure cooker, and ultimately it goes like whoosh, burst. And that means having a suicidal thought. If you're having a suicidal thought, when that goes shush, it's an impulse and you take your life. It's just like that.
Yeah. I think you're making fair points, Poonam, but I want to come from a different angle here, because I always try to keep a balanced view. And I want to share a bit of my own experience and my own mindset as well. I agree that some things are conditioned in us, some things we get genetically. And even myself, though, when I've been through incidents in life, we all go through ups and downs. We all know that it's a part of life. This life is a test. This is what our beliefs are. And Allah won't burden a soul more than it can bear. So sometimes we have to work our way through it. And I understand everyone takes things differently. What affects one person may not affect another. And some people may take it extremely hard. And that's just what, like you said, it makes us individuals. We deal with everything differently. But myself, I think I have a balance of the modern thinking and the old school thinking. And I'm not going to lie, the old school type of thinking, though, has helped me in some aspects get along with these things. So just say I've been through struggles. I might have moments where it's a day, it's 2 days, it's a week, where I'm feeling a bit down. I'm not normally myself. I'm not laughing and joking, and I'm a bit more reserved. But eventually my thinking is that, you know what, if anyone's going to change anything, it's me. I'm not going to resort to alcohol, drugs, go to the GP, or get any pills or medicine, which we'll come into a bit later on as well. But me being that bit more alpha male type, I guess, if that's what we want to call it, has also helped me get over many obstacles and challenges in life as well. And that's made me have a bit more mental toughness that if tomorrow I was going to go through something similar again, I'll be able to manage with it. I'll give you one example, like just to pull something random so people can relate. If I was walking down the street and I got attacked, within 24 hours, I'll probably be over it. If I was to relate that to somebody else, every individual will deal with it different. And that's based on my life experiences, what I have or haven't been through. What hasn't broken me has made me stronger. And that's a very common saying. For some people, it actually applies. And for some people, it doesn't, because they struggle to get over that barrier. And the only person that's going to help you get over that barrier is yourself. You can always get the support, you can get the help and the advice. But ultimately, if you want to make that change as a human and as a person, and you want to get past it, you have to do it yourself. There's been many times I've come across people where they're surprised. They're like, how are you still trying to do something again? Or how come you're still so positive? But that's because over the years, my life and my experiences, I've not programmed myself, but that's how I like to think and that's how I like to feel. Yes, I'm human. We have our moments, we have our ups and downs. But when I've done more research and I found out more and looked into maybe Dean more and stuff like that, you find these things that give you that solace and that peace of mind and help you get forward in life as well. So I agree that generationally there's things and there's stigmas which don't help, but on the flip side also, I think there's certain attributes we still need to have to help support us get over that. And that's just my personal opinion, because I'd rather do something like this or go to a gym or speak to some close friends rather than go an alternative route where it's taking medicines or pills, because it's just something that isn't for me.
Can I just add my point in there before Poonam comes in there? I'm obviously listening to you guys. What point Mohsen made, I'm just trying to work it out why Mohsens feel that way. I seen when you young and healthy and very active, you have a lot of positive energies, like you can deal with certain things. And I think when your activities, like you're saying, you go to gym, you do the exercise. But I know a lot of guys who actually none of them thinks they do. They're sitting on a computer. They're probably not very socially active. I was talking to somebody's basically from Canada. It was a chap. He was talking about him. He says he was just going home and coming to work and come home. He doesn't go anywhere, and he's scared of any situation and every situation. But when the guy I'm talking to, he was actually like you, is active, always doing exercise, going to gym and things like this. I think there's a lot of men and boys, might be a little bit machoism in there, but what they really, because they're active, they deal with situations a lot better because they're physically very active and things like this. And I find, because lately, why I'm actually mentioning that, lately the culture is changing now. Everybody's onto computer, like we are actually onto the computer and things like this. And a lot of people's not actually as physical as in Mohsen is, and I know a lot of other guys, and I know a lot of kids who actually not even come out of the house, always sitting in front of the computer. So there is a little bit difference in there. I think a big things are changing. This kind of a social media coming in there is also giving a lot of awareness, but at the same time, it's giving a lot of illness as well. And that's my point. I think Poonam wants to come in there anyway.
I agree with your point, Faheem Saab, because I think in my one program I have mentioned that each and everything has pros and cons. Yeah. Media is there to bring more awareness. Media is made the world a global village. We are like very near. We can talk, we can see what's going on around the world. But again, it has a certain drawbacks as well. And I think I've covered that program, which I did specifically on the suicide rate and why it's increasing in people. But I'm not going there. The way you have, given me your own example, Mohsen, that, you are a strong person and there are certain attributes being a male which kind of helped you deal with certain kind of situations. So they are also needed. And yes, there are highs and lows days which people have. there is a theory behind it, which we like start, at the start of our training. When I was becoming a psychotherapist, we start with this theory that universally the divinity, it created the mankind with inherent healing abilities. Like if there is a little amount of anxiety and stress or anything, the body and mind has the capacity to unconsciously regulate it, and I might not even feel it.
Mhm.
Problem arises when these things go out of balance, and out of balance, and then they're not discussed, they're not shared, and they're not being accepted. The thing I received about you is that you're well educated, you're well exposed, you are very aware about your moods, about your low days, about your high days, and then again you are very expressive. You have a very a trusting and safe social circle where you know that I will share it
Yeah.
and no one will lash back and no one will say something shameful to me, or maybe I will get more support. And even if I'll not get support, I'll get a silent kind of a satisfaction, or holding from that group, which is
Mhm.
great. And all these things which are like the way human beings are made, and certain things are genetically transmitted as well, like even depression and anxiety and
Yeah, yeah.
hypertension and all these things. So it also matters on a certain individual, that what kind of a genetic structure that individual, male or female, has.
Mhm.
Maybe you have a very strong structure, your inner self is strong, you are confident, you have the ability to learn from your mistakes and move on, and know that okay, today I would like to do that, today I don't like to do that. You are one aware human being, and that is serving you in all areas of your life, personal, work, and everything. But each and every one might not be crafted like you.
Mhm.
Maybe they are not that strong internally. Maybe they don't know how to regulate their emotion. There are some people, they don't even know that today they're feeling low. There
Yeah.
are other people who are like coming and asking them that, oh, you look low, you look unwell, is that anything
Mhm.
okay, is everything wrong? So it like it depends on each and every
Of
one,
course, of course.
in males and in females. And you are lucky that you have a good social circle to talk about, because sharing catharsis to a person you trust who can hold you verbally, non-verbally, is extremely important, whether the problem is physical, whether it's something related to your emotion. As you said that if you are being mugged, you will learn from it and you will put it aside from that.
Mhm.
But for some people it can become a huge trauma, and they can even
Yeah.
suffer from post traumatic stress disorder. So it like reality versus perception.
See,
Every person has a different perception
yeah, yeah,
and
of
they
course.
act like that. So that was my 30 cents on what you have said.
The thing is, Bunham, the things that I've created or the ways I managed to regulate myself haven't happened by chance. It's happened from experience and, like you said, learning from it. But these are the environments I've created in order to help myself. So I'm actually a person, I don't share that much. I'll speak to the odd person, but internally I manage to get by. But if there is something I need to speak, I'm happy to go and speak to people and just be honest and open. And that has happened over time. So even I've had to learn and develop as a human, and the more understanding and things I've got. But this is why when within my field of work, or there's been many times even before the program, regularly people will come to me for help or advice because they know that's a person there. But this is the advice that I give to the young people that I work with as well, because I have that life experience. I haven't had it smooth, but I've managed to find measures to progress, to stay positive, to keep myself regulated. And this is the message that we try to put out also on this program as well. So, yep, there are pros and cons. Like you says, we all have our own ways of doing it. And just that bit of advice and support might help that person. It might be a way they haven't tried before. So, yeah, for me, even like when I watched about that chap that was on about the footballer, he wasn't comfortable speaking to people himself. And for him, he thought speaking to a stranger would be much better. So someone who actually has no personal connection with him. So not everyone is fortunate, but there are alternatives out there, what suits that person. And within our communities and within our culture, I think that's why that stigma is there, and they may prefer to go and speak to not a random stranger, but a professional, whether it's
I
someone.
feel, Mohsen, sorry, I'm cutting you out, but the way you speak, the way I know you, the way I'm receiving you, there are some people who are kind of lucky. They're blessed from Alamia. They're blessed from the divinity that when people look at them, the vibes, the aura they exchange,
Mhm.
there are some people, even when I look at them, I find them that, oh, they're so easy to talk to. I can open up to them. And
Yeah.
then there are some people I know very well, but I'm unable to open up in front of them. So I think you have the divine gift of awareness, and you have that personality too, that someone can come to you and you are easy to talk to. You understand them, and then it's a comfort for them.
For
Not
me, it comes
everyone
down
has
to
this kind of a quality.
Can I
sorry, Fame, can I just quickly, it comes down to a person's people skills, Poonam. Like, you'll have it, everyone has it, Fame has it. It's just depends on the way, whether you genuinely are wanting to support that person. So there's many young people I work with who go through difficulties, who have, and I don't know much about their background history, because during the pandemic, I've been supporting various young people. And even after time, they've ended up opening up and telling me stuff about their past, which I wasn't aware of. So things like this don't happen instantly. It does take that time and effort and consistency, and that person has to be able to trust you, and they can see that this person is genuinely here to try and help me as well. Sorry, Fame, I just wanted to get that in before you
No,
think.
but again, the way I'm receiving you is that unconsciously you are working as a psychotherapist by talking, by sharing, by listening to them, by providing a good listening ear. You are kind of helping them in a manner which is like giving them a lot of peace, and this is the quality which
Thank
other
you.
people don't have. I'd like to listen to Faheem Saab now. He
Okay, what I'm saying here, I think, is you guys obviously. I'm just trying to open the debate now. Okay, basically, why the question was from the beginning, why people are actually not related with this mental issues now these days. Uh, this is what we find in Pakistan. This is what we find in UK, where we're thinking that people do have all kind of understanding, things like this. So there is some kind of a gray area. This is what I think I want to take the debate onto it. There's a lot of people who actually not even going to psychotherapist or the psychiatrist or whoever it is, right? And when it's got to be need, obviously they find people like Mohsens and people who actually help people around. They might be not the specialist, but they have this. Some people have the natural gift on it, but it's not many of them around, as an I can see. And the way the society gone and the busy kind of a things, all these peoples are actually, to me, if they're not active, I was just going to bring them peoples again in there who sitting and don't have many friends. I
Mhm.
seem to have they have more problems with it, especially since this COVID-19 come. Now there's a lot of people still locked into house, and I don't know how long they're going to use this, all the SOPs, right? Okay. So I think psychotherapists or all the psychologists are actually very important. And I think this is what we need to talk, why the peoples are not even such a modern society here. People think to know one of the best national health in there. I have loads of other questions. I'm not jumping into that yet. So why this is not realization there? That's what I'm just bringing in.
Right.
Mohsen, would you like to say something about it?
But please, thank you. So I think I just want to go a little bit further back though, Fame, as in, why do people get into these situations in the first place as well? So from my understanding, it could be caused environmental. A lot of the time it's financial. A lot of the time they may have gone through something and it's affected them emotionally, physically, and things like that. Fame's made a really good point that not everyone's fortunate to have a friend or family circle there, or have loved ones, or even know where to find the support. And we talk about cultures a lot. So even though this may be a cultural issue where we don't speak about it much, the positives of our culture is that we should have that unity there, that friend circle, that family circle, them loved ones that we should be able to speak to openly without judgment. And because the point you made is also very valid as well, there's a lot of shaming that takes place. So that's one thing we have, which is a positive, where there are many people there to help. But if they're going to shame you, it's actually adding zero value. It turns into a negative. The rise of it, I think, has happened is one thing is potentially people may be weaker, or the other thing is that awareness has increased. I personally think awareness has probably increased a lot more, because even a few generations back, the previous century, people lived through 2 world wars, different pandemics, flus, a lot of financial crisis as well, and we're going through something similar ourselves. And these things do spike. It's natural. We're human at the end of the day. There's only so much we can do. I think where, for me, my opinion, as a human, there's 3 parts. You have mind, body, and soul, and everything kind of goes hand in hand. So even if I try to self-regulate, or if I go to a gym, I feel better mentally. So it's not just physically, I feel better mentally. But there may be some things which I can only fulfill spiritually. So that might be looking more about deen and things like that. And everything kind of goes hand in hand. I am fortunate that I have a friend circle, or brothers, I should say, that we can speak to each other honestly and openly. And Faheem is right, there are a lot of people who are secluded, who are on their own, who don't have it. And that's one of the things that I think leads to other issues. And there's a big issue within, I think, the British culture, which isn't spoken about much, and that's alcoholism. Because I think people turn to things like alcohol, to drugs, to other things like that to try and suppress whatever's missing inside them. So whether they're feeling depressed or anxious and things like that, those are the sort of things that they turn to. And it's not actually fixing anything. It's not actually helping. Like you mentioned yourself, Poonam, speaking to people actually helps a lot more. One thing I'm kind of against, and this is just my own opinion as well, I'm not sure about the system in Pakistan, but in England, when people go to a GP, you do a 1 week self-certification. So for 1 week, you can say, I'm not feeling well, and I don't have to go into work, for example. After that, when you go to see your GP, because again, what a person's feeling mentally, another person like a GP can't confirm or deny there or then, they quite quickly operate or lead to, would you like some medicines? Would you like to start taking some prescribed drugs? And there's not much of a process that takes place. And some people go for it, some people are against it. I'm one who I personally wouldn't want to try it. It may help, it may not, but it's just me being me. And a lot of people then end up taking medicines from the GP without much of a process. And whether that helps them or not, I don't know. So, but I think that could actually be harming them more than it could be doing good. So that's why I wanted to always try and keep that balance out. Me having that a bit of an old school mindset sometimes, managing to get over it some way or another, rather than me going on to something that may make it worse for me. I think that's one of the things that adds to people having more mental health. So not having them social circles, but turning to avenues as alcohol, for example, as a solution isn't actually helping them. So I think people aren't aware of the solutions, or the avenues they're going down actually makes them worse rather than makes them better.
Mohsen, I completely agree here with you that there are people in Pakistan also who, instead of talking, they kind of get attached to alcohol and many other illicit drugs which are like available easily. And because I work at a rehab as well, they feel that they are taking these drugs in order to help themselves. But what the drugs are doing is that they are actually killing the natural healing ability, natural ability to remain intact to their reality, how they need to get help. Alcohol especially start to kill it. And you have seen the people who are like regularly having alcohol till the time they don't start drinking the next day or the next morning, they are not kind of in their senses. They can't speak fine, they can't even make coffee for themselves, they can't even wash, they can't even change until they have a glass full of it. And this thing which you have mentioned, that if you are going to GPs are there to prescribe you certain medications which can reduce your anxiety, which can reduce your depression. which can elevate your mood. It is a little surprising for me because, the practice of Britain, which I known from like past 10 years, I felt that there came a lot of change and shift which pharmaceuticals are doing with surgeries and with GPs and all that, which I'll do my research on, because 10 years back it wasn't like that. You need to go to a GP, you need to tell your problem. The GP used to listen to you nicely, and the GP used to recommend you to the specialist. The GPs were the one who used to recommend you to the psychiatrist, and they were the one who used to recommend you to the psychotherapist as well. If GPs are doing what is the work of psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, then obviously the avenues are shutting down, closing. People are taking medication, and it's like general psyche that, pop a pill, feel okay, sleep, feel okay. No need to talk. Just remain with yourself. Become an introvert. Don't leave house. Be in. Because you're helping yourself, you are taking medication, and I might be wrong, but my observation is that when they start this medication, they don't even go for a follow-up checkup that, do they need to stop it now? Do they need to, decrease the dose, or do they need to change the salt or whatever? They just kind of get hooked to it. And most of the antidepressant, most of the mood elevators, most of the medication which are related to lessen your anxiety are opioids. You can become addict of these medications too. So this is a dangerous practice, and I am a little worried about it.
Well,
So
I know. Sorry, go
I
ahead, Faheem.
really
Go
wants
ahead.
to. I mean, I was actually gonna come to that point, which is really surprising because Mohsen and me both live in UK. You're in Pakistan, but obviously you've done the study in the UK-based people who actually.
Institution, yeah. I did my degree from CPCAB Leeds, yeah.
All right, okay. And it surprised me. This is surprise for you, but this is quite a normal practice here. And like you just mentioned, I personally think the national health, when the government doing all sorts of cutting, obviously they're cutting the funds. So they found an easy solution. What I gather, as in might be I'm wrong, uh, if you go to your GP, he's not the psychotherapist or he's not the
No.
psychologist. Instead of he's recommending you to go and get a check, you might have some psychological problem, right? It will easy write you a pill, right? Okay, and pill is just like you say, it's quite addictive as well. So this practice is kind of a raised question. I don't want anybody to be really jumping all over the place, but it does raise the questions because why they're doing that. And it's quite common, you ask anybody and everybody. I know people who are actually taking antidepressant tablets without involving any kind of psychiatrist or anybody as a psychotherapist. They go on and sit and thinking, which has surprised me. Mohsen, you were early on because you are mentioning me something. The kids you deal with, the kids are actually extra active. What kind of a tablet are they giving to them?
So the only children, from my understanding, who actually take medication are the ones on ADHD. The
Okay.
ones with social, emotional, and mental health, from my understanding, are on nothing. It's
Right.
down to the work we do day to day, or we might do weekly key worker sessions where we can speak to them. It's in a safe space. They feel comfortable how things are at home, how they're finding things at school. Their voices are heard, and we'll try to put measures in place to support them. Or we also have a therapy team which works in the school building where they may see something or do extra sessions with them, and everything is within confidence, and only the people who need to know will be made aware of what any concerns they have.
My question to you, because you deal with children with special needs, they have these type of problems.
Yep, yep.
All the medicines that been given to them children is through their GP, or they has to go through certain programs?
I believe for them it's a process, because if it's ADHD, it's something that may be recognised at a young age. They'll go through a process, and this is the solution they've found. But just to touch on your previous point, sorry, Faheem, as well, about it does seem to be common practice here. I know Poonam's practice is fairly different. They do more speech therapy. I mean, not sorry, more therapy lessons and things like that. And it's a process. And eventually, it may be you need medicine. For the British, I think it's sometimes, again, there's going to be some brilliant GPs out there, brilliant doctors. We're not here to paint everyone with the same brush. But the general feel is that you can quite easily go, say, this is how I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling, some medicines will be given. True or not, whether it helps or not is a different argument. But I think what happens is that sometimes people are wanting a quick fix, but they don't realize there's sometimes no such thing as a quick fix. So I don't want to go too far off topic, but coronavirus, for example, if somebody in this day and age passes away, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for a post-mortem to take place. So I heard from one of my friends talking with him yesterday, if you're Muslim, you believe in trying to do the burial straight away, are you actually going to wait 3 weeks before the body's potentially released, before you get the death certificate so you can bury your loved one? Or are they just going to write it as coronavirus, COVID-19, so they can go and get the burial done straight away and do what is our right, what is our furz afterwards? So there's so much behind the scenes that we're probably not aware of and we don't see. But I only found this out from speaking to one of my brothers yesterday. So even when it comes to a GP or somebody wanting medicines, they may be thinking, I can just do this and it solves that person's problems and they're kind of gone. What my biggest concern is, my biggest concern is that if you're in a job and you're in a field, you genuinely want to be there to help. That comes down to you as an individual. If you're a professional, if that's what you think is the best thing, people are coming to you because they need your help. So they're going to take your advice on it. They're none the wiser. So if they're thinking by me taking this, it's going to help me, I'm just doing what the doctor or the GP or whoever the guidance they've given me. But this is where it comes down to ourselves as well. Do some more research yourself. We can't just be sheep all our lives. There's so much information out there. Do a bit of research, try alternative methods as well. And worst to worst, if you need to go, then go. The last time I went to my GP or my hospital, they were surprised to even see me. But I'm one of them from maybe the old school mentality. I'm only going to go if I genuinely need to go. I don't want to be one of them who goes to a hospital or the A&E over every little thing. You see 100 people sat there, 99% of them have probably got nothing and they can deal with it at home. And the people who genuinely need help can't get that help because there's so many people just there for the sake of it.
That's right. Okay. Basically, what I'm saying here, most of what you're saying, I don't think in Pakistan that type of things happening. There's all kind of speculations in the UK. I think we needs to because I think we got 9 or 8 minutes left, right? Okay. We want to come in to conclude this program. Is obviously we will ask Poonam in future reference because I think there's a lot of things to be talked about. Why everybody needs a psychotherapist, right? Unless Poonam really wants to give any note on that and then try to conclude that program. Unfortunately, because this program was started slightly late, so I'm just trying to finish it in a good time, and is very sorry about that.
Faheem sir, if we need to extend this program, I would love to because emotional health care and working with special need, diversely able children is very close to my heart. But just as a comparison, I am not comparing or kind of commenting what is happening in UK and why GPs have taken that role, which are not their own. Maybe something has changed in their ethical framework and all. I need to do some research on that. Although I got trained from CPCAB, but the clients who are coming to me with the anxiety issues and with stress and depression, most of them are not on medication. I used to talk to them. I used to, see their inner landscape as why the anxiety is coming to them, what thoughts are there which are bothering them, their internal, their external. And if talk therapy is helping, then there would be no medication prescribed. And, the therapy would continue. There are some kind of, morbidity, comorbidity where clients are coming with their medication on. So I look at their medication and then I get attached to the doctor and I ask the doctor that, on what reasons you have recommended these medication and these doses. and what would be the next visit, and how would the client, kind of taper them off, because the medication is not needed to, take for anxiety or stress, like lifelong. It's not like that. If a person is having therapy in hands, and if I feel that, okay, with talk therapy this person needs some kind of a relaxation too, then I recommend that person to a doctor with a note that that person is coming to me with these problems. I am, providing them with talk therapy. So, maybe you need to prescribe something after taking their history, which might regulate their sleep cycle, and, make their mood a little better. So I work in a system like that. It's like a loop. Everyone is connected. And, like, we ask them to regularly check the doses, when to stop, how to stop, taper it off, what to do, what not to do. And even in Pakistan, I work with ADHD children. And as you know, that their psychological assessment, whether they're ADHD, whether it's autism, whether it's Down syndrome, it can't be done before the age of 7 years.
Mhm.
But when children are coming to us by their, behavior, by their energy level, by their
Yeah.
activities, you could sense that, okay, when the diagnosis time would come, we will send them for diagnosis. But these things are there. So in my summer school, in my workshop, I kind of design personalized activities with the group, which can, like, channelize their, if they have extra energy in ADHD, in a manner that it's been out there, and when they go home they have their meal and they sleep. There is no medication for early children. Those who have less energies, then I have also learned some occupational therapy techniques by pressing some pressure on their shoulders and all,
Yeah.
and, to regulate their energy. But medication would come where I work and in my practice a lot later, whether it's working with children, whether it's working with adults, whether it's, my work with trauma patients, whether it's my work with post-traumatic stress disorder, or even sexual assault or abuse, or all kind of patients. So in Pakistan, me and my practice works like that. And what you have told me about England is a little alarming for me.
Mhm.
And if you would like to continue this, then I'll dig some research. I'll talk to some people who are in England, that why this shift is there, because only taking a pill is not the final cure.
Mm.
Talk
Really?
therapy, talking to someone can do wonders
Yeah.
without getting any medication, or even getting that fear of being addicted to a medication.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with everything that you've said, Poonam. And the only thing I can think of, top of my head, I know my knowledge is minimal around the GPs and people like that. The only thing I can think that it's become that way is probably because of the numbers. Because in Pakistan, if it's something that's fairly new, there's still a process. There's more people towards the one patient that comes in or the one person you're trying to help. But I think in the UK, because there's that many people now who are coming with the same issues, it's hard to give that time and dedication and effort. But similar to yourself, even ourselves, we do things with sensory equipment, whether it's weighted blankets, that deep pressure therapy, and things like that. And I agree with everything you said. For me, I think the answer is more the talk therapy, more helping people. I know Faheem made a very good point that there's many people out there who have nobody they can communicate with. But in the UK, there are so many helplines now. People can contact you, can go online, easily find them. And there are even many workplaces who work in partnership with these helplines that you can go and speak to. And everything is in confidence. If you're not comfortable speaking to your family, or you're not fortunate, or you haven't created a friend circle that you can go and speak to. But like you said, a lot of problems I think can be resolved just by having that helping hand, having that person to hear, listen to them, or just having that change of mindset yourself, thinking that it's not something to be worried or concerned about. I shouldn't be shameful about. And one of the things that, from the research I did, from the videos I watched, one of the best things he said was, me actually coming and speaking out about it was courage. He changed his mindset, saying, this is me being courageous. Instead of me hiding it away, I've got a problem and I'm struggling and I need help. and my courage is me actually speaking out about it. So we need to change our mindsets and not think of it as a negative.
Okay.
And we need to take it in that stride that, for example, if someone is having diabetes or any kind of a disease, mental health is a disease. And disease can happen to anyone. It's no one's fault.
Right.
As we go to a doctor to get help, if we have something related here, then we also can talk about it and get it sorted out by
Right,
a person who's
okay. What
professional
I'm
about
going
it.
to do here, because my time is over, unfortunately, because we started slightly late. There's other programs coming live soon, so that's one of the reason I'm trying to rush up. Normally, I don't rush up at things because both of you guys are actually talking very interesting things, and I realize, as in Poonam mentioned, there is a lot of other things I can say. They might be not have enough psychiatrists or psychotherapists available, so they found the easy solution. It can be any other way around, but basically, as in, I think next time we'll invite Poonam again, and we'll talk about that because I think this issue is quite important. Is really concern everybody. Um, I'm sorry, I actually have to stop your program slightly early today. In the end, Poonam, you are welcome in this mindset. Mohsen, you want to say anything, and then we'll finish the program.
Yeah, just Poonam, thank you very much. I know it is a bit late in Pakistan, but we appreciate your time and you coming on, and you made some really good and interesting points, and there's a lot that we can take away from it. And again,
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm a regular viewer of your program,
Oh,
and it's an honor to come and have a discussion with you. And whenever you need me, I am here to discuss and analyze, and have a nice dialogue. So thank you so much, Nadin. Thank you so much, Faheem Saab Mohsen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'm just taking everybody. Make sure you're watching Niadin TV. Thank you.
Andy.